Hello everybody and welcome to part 3 of the Fortnite Iceberg. This part will cover layer 3 of this mega Fortnite Iceberg compilation I've decided to tackle. If you haven't watched the first 2 parts yet, I'll have a link to the playlist of the previous parts in the description. Also, a link to the community post with all the icebergs will be in a comment I make, so check that to see the icebergs for yourself and maybe even suggest an entry of your own if you don't see it in any of the posts. In addition, please consider using my supporter creator code RYVETCHA in the Fortnite item shop if you want to support me even more. Before we get started with layer 3, there were some corrections from the previous layer that various commenters pointed out, so now it's a good time to point them out. When I was talking about Alpha Fortnite, I mentioned a story about how Tim Sweeney saw a Reddit comment calling the original spelling of Fortnite lame, which is why I changed the name. Well, embarrassingly, the Twitter account the story was sourced from, Cut Video Game, is obviously a joke parody account. I thought the story was dubious, but for some reason I remember checking the Twitter accounts and verifying its authenticity, and even finding this original comment that the post was talking about. But the time gap between me writing that and recording the video was so long that I may have just remembered wrong. Also, I don't know at what ungodly hour I was writing the script, so maybe I was just tired and didn't do my due diligence. However, there truly is no excuse. As someone who spends a lot of time on the internet and makes deep dive videos, the expectation of validating my sources at the very least should be followed, which I clearly didn't. I will do better in the future. The second correction revolves around the scrap Chernobyl location entry. When I covered this entry, I talked about how there was a now debunked leak about a meltdown at the Steamy Stacks location. However, it seems like the entry was talking about something else entirely. In 2022, a concept artist working for Epic Games named Gervasio Kanda shared some of his art, and one of them was called the Uninhabited Soviet Complex, which shows an abandoned location with lots of destruction. Also, the sickly green glow alongside the gas mask poster suggests that there was some sort of radioactive meltdown here. And even though this isn't confirmed to be art for Fortnite specifically, the building featured in the art has a huge sign with Cyrillic letters similar to the English letters of FRNT, so it's basically concept art for Fortnite, and it actually may have been in consideration at a point to be put in the game. So those are the main corrections people pointed out from the previous layer. With those out of the way, let's get to layer 3 proper. 100 Drops. 100 Drops is a series by the YouTuber Luke the Notable. In these videos, he would pick a location on the Fortnite map and drop there 100 times. The point of the videos was to document himself learning how to navigate the location in the early game and become a better Fortnite player overall. It's a cool idea and even somewhat informative if you played the game yourself. I remember watching this series all the time. He started the series on May 2nd, 2018, when dropping into Salty Springs 100 times, and that video was very successful, currently having almost 6 million views. Since then, he's continued the series with various other locations, but he's long since moved to other games, most notably Minecraft. I think now he's most well known for his 100 Days in Hardcore Minecraft series, which is exactly what it sounds like. This series continued going to the thousands of days, and it was extremely successful and popularized a massive trend of 100 Days Minecraft challenges that still go on to this day. It's likely that this 100 Days series was inspired somewhat by the 100 Drops, so that's how this Fortnite series indirectly changed the meta of gaming videos on YouTube. Crossover chart. So Fortnite is basically now known as the crossover game, for better or for worse. The sheer amount of crossovers is so immense that Fortnite is connected with tons of different franchises. And consider that many of these franchises have their own crossovers with other franchises. It means that Fortnite is connected to seemingly almost every commercial property in pop culture. This has culminated in this web chart made by Twitter user Snowfoot, showing how Fortnite connects to a bunch of different properties. Granted, if you take a close look, some of the connections made to link franchises together are kind of dubious, but regardless, this is still insane. And this is also from like 2 years ago, so it doesn't even include all the collabs Fortnite has had since then. Meteor SOS. In Chapter 1 Season 3, when the meteor was heading towards the island, controller players would find that when looking at the meteor in the sky, their controller would start rumbling. These rumblings would actually be Morse code, spelling out SOS D5418. SOS is self-explanatory. D5 were coordinates for the Fortnite map, which mapped the location of Tilted Towers. 418 could be referring to a date, either April 18th or April 2018. Of course, we now know that Tilted wasn't destroyed by the meteor, but back then this was considered evidence for Tilted being destroyed. In a similar vein, the TVs on the map also played Morse code. This was translated to a message saying they don't want us to, with the last word starting with a K before being cut off. This message probably says they don't want us to know. Overall, just some cool Easter eggs Epic added to hype up the mystery around the meteor. Golden Chicken. This is referring to the chickens with a golden glow that used to be in the game. If you killed it, alongside dropping the usual meat, it would also drop a golden weapon. There's really not much more to this entry. Smart Builds. In July of 2021, leakers revealed that Fortnite was working on a feature called Smart Builds. This feature would allow you to essentially build simple structures with the push of a single button. There were 4 types of smart builds in development: a smart box, which was a 1x1 with a roof and a floor, a smart tower, which was a 2-mat high tower with no roof, basically just 2 layers of 90s, a smart bridge, which is self-explanatory, and an unclear build called Smart Auto. Of course, this was likely worked on to lower the building skill gap. However, this was a decently unpopular revelation for obvious reasons. Adding build presets would fundamentally change building in the game for the worse, and it probably would have backfired as sweats would have taken advantage of it more than the common player, increasing the skill gap even further. This feature never ended up releasing, which I think was partly due to the success of Zero Build a couple months later in Chapter 3. Now, Fortnite players who disliked building just played that mode, and everybody else would just play the normal mode with classic building, no smart building required. Uzi. The machine pistol, unofficially referred to as the Uzi by fans, was a gun that appeared in Seasons 1 and 2 of Chapter 1. It was vaulted in Season 2, making it the second weapon to ever be vaulted in Fortnite history. Since then, the machine pistol in its original form has never returned to the game, but it's returned in spirit with the various different types of SMGs that have come to the game since, some of them literally just being reskinned Uzis. Airhead skin. Airhead is a rare rarity skin that was added to the files in Season 9, however it wasn't released until much later in Chapter 2 Season 2. What makes Airhead notable is what happened to the skin between when it was added and when it released. Airhead itself is quite the cool skin. He's kind of this dude made out of different scraps with a balloon for a head. There's a funny self-destructive theme to the skin, with the large target on his chest and the fact that his red balloon head has a spiky collar surrounding it. When Airhead was first leaked, it was priced at 1500 V-Bucks and was an epic rarity. However, upon release, its rarity was changed to rare. Strangely, it was still initially released with a price of 1500 V-Bucks, with it being lowered to 1200 only a few hours afterwards. This is one of the only cases of a skin's price being changed after release. Additionally, upon the release of the skin, the Airhead's Candy Twitter account posted this tweet stating Victory Royale. This got many people discussing if the Airhead skin was a collaboration with the candy company. I mean, they both shared the same name, and the company's mascot was Red Balloon Head, which matched the skin. However, this wasn't actually the case, as a collab would have been made more apparent, and this was most likely the Airhead's Candy social media manager making a fun reference. Faces on mountains. In Chapter 1 Season 8, there were actual faces that could be found on mountains. There were specifically 3 of them, one in the jungle biome, one in the desert biome, and one in the iceberg biome. These faces were crudely drawn, but still had variety to them. There's really nothing deeper here, it's just another classic Fortnite Easter egg, probably included for the weekly challenge of visiting all 3 of them. Fortnite sues employee. There have been several situations where Epic have sued their own employees or people who did contract work for them for leaking information about the game. The earliest example happened in the lead up to Chapter 1 Season 4. Speculation about where the meteor would land was the hot topic in the Fortnite community, and while most people assumed it would land at Tilted, a singular Reddit post went against the grain and made the strange prediction that it would actually land at Dusty Depot. Of course, this random out-of-the-blue prediction turned out to be right, and Epic actually traced the origin of this post back to a contractor who worked on quality assurance. Apparently this contractor shared the information with someone else, who later then posted to Reddit. Epic then sued this guy for leaking trade secrets. This situation happened again in the lead up to Chapter 2 Season 1. Around this time, another QA tester and UX tester were sued by Epic for leaking aspects of Chapter 2. Before Chapter 2, a screenshot of Chapter 2 was posted to a Fortnite forum online, which was traced back to this QA tester. This tester apparently said that he emailed the screenshot to himself, but was unaware of how the image ended up on the wider internet. As for the UX tester, he definitely knew what he was doing. as Twitter accounts linked to him would leak features like swimming and even told someone to DM him for information about Season 11, as he claimed to have played it. Of course, both of these people were sued as well. Indonesia ban. In July of 2022, Indonesia banned Fortnite alongside several other softwares and websites. This was due to a new Indonesian policy that required companies to report all user information and data to the Indonesian Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, also known as Kominfo. Epic refused to provide said information by the deadline, so they and all their games were banned in Indonesia. However, some players used VPNs to circumnavigate the bans. Despite this, Epic still lost a bunch of users, and with Indonesia's large population, the amount of players they lost was significant. So they decided to comply with Indonesia's rule and share user information, which resulted in Fortnite being unbanned in the country by the end of August. Chapter 2 map leaked. In September of 2019, a leak of the Chapter 2 map was posted on the Fortnite competitive subreddit, with the OP saying that their friend who was an Epic employee gave it to them. This image was a poorly cropped screenshot of the map with some names of the POIs. Now, this leak was actually real. It was an image of the beta map, which is why the art style is shoddy and some of the names differ from the final version. The image was reposted to various different social media and forums, where people almost unanimously agreed that it was fake. It's funny looking back on it now, but there was a good reason for people to be skeptical of this leak, as it was uncorroborated. Even more interesting was that in late September, Twitter user OctaMayoYT came out and said that the map was actually something they made as an art project, and not something leaked by Epic, which was a blatant lie as we now know. However, once Chapter 2 came out, people actually realized this leak was real, surprisingly. It's a rare case of an actual major leak in Fortnite history, as most leaks are just people finding assets in an update file or a teaser being shared to suit on accident. Free Fire. Free Fire is another battle royale game that basically just looks like a ripoff of PUBG. In a trailer that is now deleted, it can be seen that many Fortnite skins are used as assets in the background of this trailer. Of course, it's likely that the game devs didn't get permission to do this, and rather just stole the assets to use for the trailer. It's likely that this shady stuff is commonplace within Free Fire, as other people have pointed out that character models from other games also showed up in the trailer. Some speculated that it could have been a collab, which, it's not. This idea is ridiculous. Montages. Montages are a genre of video that have been around for over a decade. In the case of Fortnite, a montage refers to various impressive clips edited with transitions and other effects set to a song. There's not much more I can go into here. You saw these montages all over the place. They're still relatively popular, but not as popular as they used to be due to the decrease in popularity of the competitive side of the game. Jimbothy. Jimbothy is a YouTuber who covers gaming content, which often includes Fortnite content. He has over 1 million subscribers. However, he usually resorts to clickbait, often advertising completely fake things in his titles and thumbnails. Although I will say he doesn't seem to be too active anymore. In a comment on one of his more recent videos, somebody remarks that he's still pushing clickbait, to which Jimbothy replies, "It's all I got left, bro." After someone replied to that saying that he could be more honest and push more creative content, Jimbothy said that he's trying, but it always seems to not work out. He's dealing with some serious burnout, but is willing to work and improve his content. So maybe that's why he's taking the break. Hopefully he comes back feeling better and making better content. However, there are a bunch of Fortnite clickbaiters, so why include Jimbothy here specifically? Well, there's a pretty big joke in the community that Jimbothy isn't actually a clickbaiter, but rather a time traveler who gave us information about what would come to Fortnite in the future. This is because a bunch of the stuff he shows in clickbait actually comes to the game later on. If you look up Jimbothy Predictions Fortnite, you'll see videos that show his clickbait that actually got into the game. Jimbothy is actually pretty high effort for a clickbait channel, as he creates animations to make his lies more believable. And, well, if he had just waited a couple years, his clickbait wouldn't be clickbait anymore. Jimbothy accurately predicted that UFOs, helicopters, sharks, and several Marvel collaborations would be coming to the game. Of course, this is just him getting lucky with his clickbait topics, but it's still pretty funny to think about. Loot Stars. Loot Stars were an item added to Fortnite in Season X. They were only available in starry suburbs, as they would fall out of the sky and land there. When interacted with, they would drop either a rare, epic, or legendary weapon. The legendary TAC SMG was a weapon that was exclusively found in Loot Stars. Starry Suburbs as a whole was a cool location, and I hope that it, along with Loot Stars, come back in some way since we didn't get to spend a lot of time with the POI. Grenade Launcher Change. This is referring to a pretty insignificant change in Chapter 3 of Fortnite. Before Chapter 3, grenade launchers were kind of underwhelming as a projectile took forever to explode. They'd bounce around a bunch and like 10 seconds after firing they would explode. It had its uses in suppressive fire, but in a fast-paced setting it was basically useless. In Chapter 3, they were changed to detonate immediately after the first bounce, making them a lot more useful. It didn't really matter anyway since the grenade launcher was vaulted in the next season and hasn't returned since. All cars were electric for a day. This is most likely referring to Chapter 1 Season 9 where cars were turned into electric cars to match the new season's futuristic theme. Although I'm not sure considering that the entry specifies only one day. It's possible that this may have also been a bug in Chapter 2 where cars didn't need fuel, but I couldn't find anything about it whatsoever. If you have any idea what this could be referring to, please let me know in the comments. Indestructible Suitcase. In the container yard in Chapter 1, a weird unbreakable suitcase could be found. This suitcase seemingly contains some sort of mini factory, with a conveyor belt feeding bushes to some sort of machine. This has been there since very early on in the game, and it's a bit of a mystery. Some people say it's meaningless, while others say it's a reference to what used to be the most upvoted post on the Fortnite BR subreddit back in very early Chapter 1. This post, made on November 9th, 2017, by user YaLikeDogs, was a semi-joking post calling for a bush-destroying machine to be added to the game. Of course, this was due to the frustration that a lot of players were camping in bushes back then. Maybe Epic saw this post and acknowledged it by adding a bush-destroying machine in the game, albeit in this tiny, indestructible suitcase. Either way, it's still one of the weirder mysteries of early Fortnite. Martin Luther King. In August of 2021, Fortnite added an officially sanctioned map titled March Through Time. This was a map made in collaboration with Time magazine and aimed to recreate Washington, D.C. on the date of Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous I Have a Dream speech. The map also included a virtual museum where players could learn about the civil rights movement. The map included collaborative challenges that would encourage players to stay and explore the map. An Epic Games community manager said that they hoped to promote unity and peace among all people by making this map. I don't think I really need to spell out why this idea might have gone wrong. I guess on the surface it wasn't a bad idea at all, especially since everybody involved had probably nothing but good intentions while making it. They wanted to teach younger children about an important historical event using a platform that they were familiar with. It would allow people who typically wouldn't get in-depth education about the civil rights movement to learn about it. Also, the map itself was very well made, no complaint there. It's just that I feel like they didn't really think through the conceptual idea enough. I feel like there are huge problems here. One, this is very much liberal performatism, a true sign of the post-postmodernist times we live in right now. Like, you can tell that Epic Games' board of directors were all patting themselves on the back for how progressive they were for doing this. I know that Epic always tries to show how much of a philanthropic company they are, and they have done some great things on that front, but wow, this is a textbook example of performative activism. The map's idea of equal rights and positive change is vaguely defined. It just talks about making the world a better place, not any actual specifics. Considering the target audience, I somewhat get the lack of nuance. The trailer itself looks like a comedy sketch. Seeing the real-life images of the March on DC immediately followed by a Fortnite recreation invokes incredible levels of cringe. Like, if a fan did this, I would think it was cringy and tasteless, but the fact that it's an official Fortnite video is genuinely insane. Did the people making this realize that these were real people fighting for human rights? Real people who decided to stand up against horrible injustices they witnessed? Because I feel like Epic thought of it as like a movie or something that they could incorporate and recreate in their game. Once again, I have no doubt that everybody involved in making it had nothing but good intentions, but this isn't that good in practice. I think it's clear that this was a move by Epic to try and make Fortnite be seen more as a social metaverse platform instead of just a battle royale game, but it backfired pretty badly. And of course, all the goodwill they wanted to garner is absolutely only for increasing their profits in the future, which makes this whole thing even worse. Epic assumed that their player base of actual children and preteens would have the maturity to take this map seriously. But the thing is that you can't build a user base of young children in a game where various silly characters kill each other, and then drop a somber reflection of American racial history in it. Your platform is probably not right for such an event. You make a mockery of the history because the kids playing the game join the map and run around their Rick and Morty skins doing the default dance in front of segregated water fountains. Epic did eventually make it so that all emotes, except for those exclusive to the event, were locked. Well, almost all. Emotes that were made in collaboration with other companies were protected under contract, so Epic couldn't actually lock them, even for an event. One of these emotes was the Catwoman Whip emote. Of course, edgy players would spam this emote on the map, which is a complete disaster on the part of Epic. So yeah, in a vacuum, the MLK map is pretty good for what it tries to do. However, in the real world, this map was an example of how not to do activism, and Epic did receive heavy backlash for promoting this. Appropriating MLK and his ideas and sanitizing them to fit the family-friendly universal appeal that Fortnite pushes in the name of profit is not the best move. On top of that, they should have anticipated the immaturity of the community before pushing this out, as what the players do in the map will reflect poorly on Epic themselves. Despite this, Epic still has pushed out a bunch of virtual museums documenting historical events, most recently the Voices of the Forgotten exhibit documenting the Holocaust. Once again, a very well done map made with the best of intentions. With Holocaust denialism on the rise, it's important that younger generations have access to the facts of what happened, and reaching out through a video game is one way to do that. However, I do think that Epic needs to be mindful of their platform and know that their inherently goofy game combined with these exhibits on serious subjects make a joke of themselves, and more importantly, lighten the impact of these serious subjects. Epic will continue to host these sorts of exhibits in the future, and I hope we can trust them to change their presentation in these events so that the subjects can be treated with the respect they deserved. Creative Hubs. This is basically a new version of a block. Fortnite Creative has a default hub world you spawn in before joining another world. It used to be a default Epic-made world, but starting in Chapter 2 Season 1, Epic started to ask creators to submit their own hubs for consideration. Epic benches the best ones and rotates them in weekly. They also often do callouts for holiday-specific creative hubs. Fortnite actually has a whole page outlining the requirements and design philosophy needed for a successful creative hub. Unfortunately though, in Chapter 4 Season 3, Epic changed the hubs back to Epic-made hubs. Hopefully we see user-made hubs return in the future. New Year's Events. The New Year's events are annual events that happen every New Year's Eve. It occurs on the hour for every time zone that crosses over into January 1st, so it happens multiple times in a 24-hour time span. The first one occurred on December 31st, 2018, and the tradition continued in the following years. The event consists of a giant disco ball dropping out of a rift in the sky. The ball lights up and begins a 10-second countdown. Once the countdown ends, a bunch of fireworks are shot into the sky and every player on the map is forced to do a boogie bomb style emote. The event ends with a giant firework shooting up into the sky exploding to show the number of the new year. Sandbox Mode. This is another quite vague entry. Sandbox Mode could refer to the development name or an alternate name for either Fortnite Playground, Fortnite Creative, or Fortnite Battle Labs, as all three are technically sandbox modes for the game. There was also rumors and supposed leaks of a sandbox mode replacing Battle Labs, but such a mode would never arrive. The entry could also refer to the now discontinued creative map by creator DBG that's basically a free-for-all battle royale map which contained every single weapon and consumable in the creative inventory, as well as a bunch of vehicles. The Coolest Player. In Chapter 3 Season 3, one of the Week 8 challenges instructed players to find the coolest player on the map. While this may seem confusing at first, people quickly realized that the challenge would be completed by looking into a mirror. A quirky and surprisingly heartwarming challenge. 10,000 ping. 10,000 ping is kind of a joke. It usually is used as a vaguely big number to refer to bad ping in the game. If you guys didn't know, ping refers to the latency between your computer and the server a software is running on. Lower ping means that the data from your computer takes a shorter time to travel to the server, and will result in better gameplay for you, as lag is minimal. However, with higher ping, the time it takes for your actions inputted to reach the server, and for the server to update and send the data back to your computer is much longer, resulting in terrible lag and a jittery experience. Your actions do not translate to what happens on screen, if you can even keep track of what's going on. For the most part, people usually shouldn't have to play with 10,000 ping. I'm pretty sure that's impossible for games with lots of servers like Fortnite. However, some people will use the term 10,000 ping as a joke when experiencing terrible lag. Others, like content creators, will purposefully increase their ping by connecting to servers on the other side of the world. For example, if you live in the United States, connecting to an Australian server will result in lots of ping, usually close to 1,000 ping. These people will challenge themselves to try and win a game while experiencing this terrible lag. Fortnite x Jordan's map. There have been a couple of collaboration maps between Fortnite and Air Jordans, usually tied to skins. The first of these maps released in 2019 and was tied into the Clutch and Grind skin bundle. The map was in this run and collect style, where you run downhill through an urban environment and have to collect specific tokens to unlock styles for the Clutch and Grind skins. A repeat occurred in 2021 with the release of the Cool Grey bundle. The Jumpman Zone map was a mix of finding and collecting tokens and completing trick shots to earn rewards like the bonus styles with the Cool Grey bundle skins. The Crossbow. The crossbow was a weapon introduced in Chapter 1 Season 3 of Fortnite. It was a scoped weapon which was pretty disliked at the time for being extremely weak. It has a slow firing rate and the travel speed of the bolt is pretty slow as well, resulting in it being frustrating to hit your shots. And even if you did hit a shot, it didn't do enough damage to justify its fire rate. It also did literally only 1 damage to any build. The only 2 beneficial aspects of the crossbow are that it has infinite ammo and it produces basically no sound, but you're not going to benefit from these in game. There's no reason to pick it up over other weapons like a sniper rifle. The crossbow was vaulted in Season 4 and would return in brief durations going forward. Of course, nowadays people ask for the crossbow to return because it's nostalgic and all, but others are usually quick to point out how bad it was. The crossbow has a variant called a Cupid's crossbow, which was themed around Valentine's Day. Well, I say it's a variant of the crossbow, but to be frank, the regular crossbow is a variant of Cupid's crossbow. Cupid's crossbow was introduced in Chapter 1 Season 2, while the regular crossbow was introduced in Season 3. This gives it a unique status of being the only weapon where the holiday variant was introduced before the default variant. Device Test 1. Device Test 1 was a creative template island that was released on September 11, 2020. It was a map that just contained a bunch of creative devices and situations where you could test them in order to make sure they were functioning as intended. Really nothing much more than that. But I guess I'll have to talk about another test called Shooting Test 1. Now, this wasn't a creative mode, it was a whole LTM from way back in Chapter 1 Season 2. This was a game mode used to determine how proposed changes to weapons would actually work in a match. For example, first shot accuracy was actually introduced in this game mode. In the game mode, it would indicate first shot accuracy via red glow on the reticle, which did not make it over to the main mode. It also had other changes such as headshot damage nerfs and the damage fall-off adjustments, some of which made it to the game while others did not. I'm really a sucker for these types of obscure technical aspects of the game, so this was a fun entry. The emote dance moves, more commonly known as the default dance, is one of the most iconic emotes in Fortnite history. Almost everyone knows the most famous version of the song. The default dance also has a chance to play a second music track, this one. However, there was actually a third song the default dance was able to play way back in the early days of the game. It sounded like this. However, this third track was later removed probably because it sounded a lot like the song Faith by George Michaels, and they didn't want to get into any copyright trouble. Kind of funny considering how basically all dance emotes released nowadays are licensed. So yeah, there's an obscure third track to the default dance. Are there any more? Maybe we'll find out later down in the Iceberg. Cigarettes. Back in the older days of Fortnite, cigarettes and ashtrays could be found around the map. This was probably due to the more gritty tone that early Fortnite carried over from Save the World, which meant that cigarettes wouldn't be out of place on the map back then. There were even no smoking signs in the bathrooms, truly a relic of old Fortnite. Submarine Submachine. Submarine Submachine was an achievement back in Chapter 2 Season 1 of Fortnite. You could get this achievement by eliminating an opponent using an SMG while you're swimming in the water. I don't know why this was singled out on the Iceberg, maybe because it was just oddly specific for a hidden achievement. Overtime challenges. So yeah, I've referred to these previously in the Iceberg, but I haven't outright spoken about them. These were challenges introduced in Chapter 1 Season 7 to give players some extra rewards nearing the end of the season. Of course, the Season 7 overtime challenges gave players extra styles for some of the Battle Pass skins, but it also most famously gave a free Battle Pass for Season 8. The future overtime challenges would not give free Battle Passes. The tradition continued for Season 9, Season X, and Chapter 2 Season 1. However, Chapter 2 Season 1 also experimented with the idea of enlightened styles with corrupted scratch, a type of overtime style dependent on how many levels you gain after Tier 100. This was the method used for a bit, ending overtime challenges. Later on, Epic just added more bonus rewards after tier 100, essentially just extending the battle pass by another 100 tiers, which is where the progression of overtime is right now. Spire Jump Boots. The Spire Jump Boots were an odd mythic item added for Chapter 2 Season 6. They allowed the user to build up higher jumps, and after triple jumping you would be able to redeploy your glider. Considering its infinite usage, I actually found the boots to be pretty useful in endgame scenarios for mobility and positioning. However, the process to get the boots were strangely involved. You'd have to kill one of the Spire Guardians at one of the minor Spire locations around the map. They would drop a runestone which you would need to carry to the Spire at the center of the map, a pretty lengthy journey. On top of this trip, you would also lose the ability to hold guns or build while holding the runestone, leaving you completely defenseless. Only after depositing the runestone at the Spire could you get the boots. Yeah, with that in mind, most people didn't find them worth it, and I wouldn't be surprised if some people didn't even know about them to this day. Honestly, the boots themselves should have just been the loot drop from the Spire Guardians, working like almost every other mythic item in the game. Coral Buddies. The Coral Buddies are a recurring species in Fortnite. They can be found on cosmetics like the Coral Cruiser and the Coral Commando's backbling, and they quickly became a fan favorite due to how cute they were and the catchy tune they would sing. In-game, they could be found at various locations in Chapter 2 as part of the environments. They could not be killed or destroyed. In Chapter 2 Season 3, they actually had a pretty funny storyline. The Coral Buddies started to form a village, and the player could give them materials to help them advance. They start off in the Wood Age, and when the player gives them wood, they would build some ships and a wall. You gave them stone to help them build pyramids and sphinxes to make them progress to the Stone Age. Afterwards, they build a medieval castle before advancing to a modern city. Here we can give them 100 metal to help them build a rocket which they launch. However, the civilization takes a dark turn. Our next quest is to give a barrel of radioactives to a Coral Buddy, who I kid you not, is named the Nuclear Test Buddy. After giving him the barrel of material, well, he begins the test and this happens. So after we help Coral Oppenheimer here bring the Coral Buddies civilization into the Atomic Age, we open Pandora's box, and the next time we check in on the Buddies, they have wiped out their civilization with nuclear war. Only a few grizzled survivors remain in the Fallout Age, augmenting their bodies with cybernetic enhancements. This is the last we see of the Buddies for a while, but in Chapters 3 and 4 we see normal, happy Buddies appear again around the map, so I'm glad it all ended up okay. So yeah, this was an incredible side plot to the game, and I wish we see stuff like this again. The Coral Buddies will always be one of the best footnotes of Fortnite. Ninja Floss Incidents. This is a very well-known incident. On December 31st, 2018, Ninja was one of the hosts of a New Year's celebration stream at Times Square. The event was heavily hyped up by Twitch. On the day of the stream, the host decided that they wanted to get all those in attendance at Times Square, around 1 million people, to do the floss at the same time. Of course, this went about as well as you think it did, with seemingly less than 10 people actually joining in. The crowd stood still watching Ninja do the floss on stage in front of them like an idiot, which resulted in this iconic clip.
Get it, come on baby, show me what you got, show me, just move. If you got to know it, just move. It's all I want to see, some movement. I'm not seeing enough movement. Oh my god, it's not that big. Woo.
He quickly realized the embarrassing situation and tried to move on to other things, and the video would go down as an extremely cringe moment. Ninja himself would acknowledge and poke fun at the cringe that night, and the line "I'm not seeing enough movement" would become a meme following the incident. Creative Mode Lobby Background. This refers to the old lobby background from the early days of Creative from Seasons 7 to 9. This was back before lobby backgrounds were removed, and a lot of people have nostalgia for this. Of course, the lobby background itself looked beautiful, it was nice and vibrant, and I never thought I'd be saying this, but I feel nostalgic for that original Creative Island now. Yeah, a really cool image. Poland. This is a pretty basic entry. It was no secret that the Chapter 1 Fortnite map is shaped like the country Poland. There have been people further elaborating on this, claiming that Fortnite POIs match up with actual locations in Poland, but the evidence presented has been contested. Lobby End Event. So everybody in the Fortnite community knows about the Season X End Event, where the island and all the players got sucked into a black hole. Well, players who were stuck in the lobby also were surprised by a mini-event of sorts. At the same time the black hole was created in-game, it was also shown in the lobby. It would suck in the various UI elements on screen before sucking in the player themselves, leading them to the same black hole screen that everybody else got. It's a really cool addition, and I'm sure the people stuck in the lobby frustrated for being unable to see the event were glad to witness it. It's too bad we never got many events like these for future events, as the lobby would just cut to the downtime screen. Clockwork's Backbling. The Clockwork's Backbling is an epic rarity backbling released with the Ludwig skin as part of the Oktoberfest set. It's a pretty intricate design, and it's reactive as, with every elimination the player gets, a cuckoo bird will spring out. However, this backbling is special because it actually tells the in-game time in UTC, making it one of a kind. Unique Thanos Snap. The snap was an uncommon emote introduced in Season 4, with the description being "Make it snappy." Of course, with Avengers Infinity War being a hot topic at the time, many people associated this emote with the Thanos Snap, and Epic themselves also acknowledged this connection. When using it as Thanos in the Infinity War game mode, a special animation would play. There would be a special animation with the later Thanos skin when it came out. Later, the Snap emote would actually change to be a Marvel rarity, with the description changed to "Balance is restored." This makes the Snap the first and only emote to be retroactively turned into a collab. Leviathan LTM. The Leviathan LTM was a classic LTM from back in Chapter 1 Season 4. The game would spawn a giant entity called a Leviathan at a random location on the map, which looked like the skin of the same name. The Leviathan would slowly walk towards a destination marked on the map. The players were split up into two teams, the defenders and attackers. The defenders would defend the Leviathan from the attackers. The attackers would try and bring the Leviathan's health to 0 before it reached its destination. It was only part of the game for a week before needing to be removed for maintenance, but it never ended up coming back. Despite its short tenure, it quickly became a fan-favorite LTM, and many players now reminisce on the good times they had with the Leviathan LTM and wish for it to come back. Oh, and another thing, it never actually existed. Yeah, the Leviathan LTM is fake. I think back in Chapter 1 there were those who spread fake rumors that something like this was coming in Chapter 1 Season 4, but somewhere along the line people started pretending like it actually existed, and it became a running joke in the community. The Leviathan LTM represents the vague mystery and nostalgia surrounding early Chapter 1, and a lot of people will share fake nostalgia and memories about the LTM to continue the joke. It's actually gotten to the point where some members of the community sometimes get confused and actually think it was a real yet super obscure LTM. While it is a funny ongoing community joke, you really don't see it brought up anymore. April 1st, 2018. For April Fool's Day 2018, Epic changed the Impulse Grenade and Boogie Bomb items just for one day. The Impulse Grenade would now propel you much higher than usual, to the point where using it in most situations would result in guaranteed death from fall damage for those affected by it. Likewise, the Boogie Bomb was changed to add height to your jump. It still puts you under the dancing effect, but while the player is in this state, they could jump much higher than usual, a pretty minor and obscure April Fool's joke from Epic. Indiana Jones Easter Egg. In Chapter 3 Season 3, in the location called Shuffled Shrines, there is a golden tomato head artifact. If you grab it, a boulder will spawn that will roll after you and deal significant damage if it hits you. Of course, this is a reference to the iconic opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indy has to escape a bunch of booby traps when taking an idol from a temple, ending with him outrunning a massive boulder. This was a tie-in to the Indiana Jones collab happening that same season. Jones is a pea-brain. In the Chapter 2 end event, we can see a screen in the I.O. torture chamber showing some sort of scan of John Jones's head. This scan shows that Jones' brain is quite small, a joke about his intelligence. He may be a lovable idiot, but considering that he's I.O.'s most accomplished agent, I think that this is slander. Challenge Games. Challenge Games was a POI added in Chapter 1 Season 6. It was unique in that the POI only existed in the Playground game mode, making it the only POI in Fortnite's history to only appear on the map in a specific playlist. Floating near Loot Lake, the POI was a collection of a bunch of minigame prefabs, the same as the ones found in the Porta Challenges item. These were the Obstacle Course, Firing Range, Pirate Ships, and Building Challenge. Of course, this was Fortnite's initial foray into experimenting with the Battle Royale mode being more than just a Battle Royale and more of a hub for various different types of games. However, despite being the first experiment in this regard, the challenge games are an almost forgotten part of Fortnite history. 3 Llamas Secret Unlock. In early to mid Chapter 1, rumors would circulate about what would happen if a player was able to search all 3 llamas on the map within a single match. Llamas are super rare containers that give you a bunch of good utility loot, and there were only 3 hidden around the map. The locations of the llamas would differ in every match. Due to the rarity of the llamas, most people would not be able to find all 3 in a single game, allowing this rumor to spread since it was hard to disprove for yourself. The main theory was that if you found 3 llamas in one game, you would unlock the Bright Bag backbling. This was a backbling people thought would come out with the Bright Bomber skin, but didn't. With many confused on how he got this bag, people started to spread the rumor that you would be able to get the bag as a reward if you found and searched all 3 llamas in a single match. It makes sense, after all the bag is llama themed. However, this rumor was disproven with the release of the Bright Gunner skin, who came bundled with the Bright Bag backbling. Finding all 3 llamas never did give players any reward, well, other than the insane loot they must have gotten in that game. Chapter 1 Weapon Models. A lot of weapon models back in Chapter 1 were changed when Chapter 2 came around. Possibly the most well-known example is the pump shotgun. While it is a subtle change, it is clear that the older model is a bit more cartoony and rough, while the new model is sleek and more realistic. Another, more drastic example is the burst assault rifle. The Chapter 1 Burst AR is based on the AK-74 rifle, and it later got an epic and legendary version based on the FAMAS. In Chapter 2, all the burst rifles got changed to the FAMAS model, but the upper tier burst weapons got changed to a model based on the AUG. Of course, these aren't all the changes to weapon models from Chapter 1, but they're the major ones I remember. Fortnite x Among Us. This is referring to the weird limbo state Fortnite x Among Us was in for a while, at least in regards to the community. Sometime in 2021, the community learned from leakers that some sort of Among Us game mode was in the works. Of course, we thought that this would be an official collaboration with Among Us, and in the weeks leading up to August 17, 2021, we thought that Among Us would be coming soon to Fortnite. However, when the day finally came, we got the Imposters game mode, a mode inspired by Among Us, but not an official collaboration. Of course, many people were disappointed, but almost a year later they got their wish. An official collab between Fortnite and Innersloth happened in July 2022, giving us the Distraction Dance emotes and of course the crewmate backbling. Star Wand increased damage. The Star Wand is a very popular pickaxe, especially among competitive players. But why is this? It's a good looking pickaxe, but that's not the reason. Well, it's actually because of an old bug. On September 11, 2019, the update 10.30 was added to the game. This also resulted in some bugs in the game. Usually most pickaxes only do 20 damage to other players and 75 damage to structures. However, the Star Wand pickaxe now did 56 damage to players and 80 damage to structures, and most surprisingly 86 damage when headshotting other players. This was especially weird as normally pickaxes don't have headshot damage. So yeah, this increased damage was of course a competitive advantage, especially in the competitive scene where breaking builds with your pickaxe and melee fights in the early game were common. So everybody wanted to get their hands on the pickaxe, and even after the bug was fixed, the Star Wand had grown so much in popularity that it is still one of the most commonly used pickaxes to this day. Now, most long-term Fortnite fans probably know about this bug. However, a lesser-known part of the story is that the Star Wand was not the only pickaxe affected by this bug. The AC/DC pickaxe also did increased amount of damage in the update, so why didn't it become as popular? Well, the AC/DC pickaxe was locked behind the Season 2 Battle Pass, so not many people had it in the first place, and new players couldn't get it. Meanwhile, the Star Wand was an item shop pickaxe, so many people already had it that morning and new players could get it. Chapter 2 iPhone Leak. In the weeks leading up to Chapter 2, people were excited as to what would happen after the season's end event. At the time, most of us thought it was going to be Season 11, but something happened that turned that all on its head. In October of 2019, the Apple Store accidentally included this image on their page for Fortnite. It was taken down soon after, and Epic did not comment on the situation, but the damage was already done as the image was shared across the internet. This showed that Fortnite was gearing up for a big change with new character models, water physics with the boats, and most importantly, a brand new map. We were no longer talking about a season change, but a whole new chapter, whatever that meant back then. It's a shame that this was leaked, because we knew during the blackout that there would be a new chapter and map coming. If it wasn't leaked, I feel like the blackout would have been much more impactful. Cube Cradle's true size. The Cube Cradle is considered the headquarters of the last reality. We saw it during the Chapter 2 end event, and it's considered the largest single object to ever appear in Fortnite Battle Royale. There's a loading screen depicting it where it seems to be on the same scale of the motherships, which is still huge by the way. The motherships are the size of the island itself. However, in-game the scale is much larger, and it is magnitudes larger than what we thought previously. It seems less like a ship at this point and something more akin to a moon or even a small planet. Although it is still likely that a ship that big can exist, especially if it's the mothership of a faction that invades multiple realities and strips them of their resources. But anyways, there was a Reddit post by user MasterMKK showing us the true scale of the cube's cradle. That gray line you see is a mothership. That little purple line you see to the right isn't a stray mark. No, that's the entire Fortnite island. So yeah, this thing is huge. The golden cube held in the center of the ship is big enough to crush the entire island on its own. So yeah, the cube cradle is terrifyingly large. Transcendence rarity. Fortnite cosmetics have rarities. The typical ones are common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. And afterwards new rarities come about for various collaborations and types of skins. However, do you know about the Transcendence rarity? This is a special type of rarity used by developers for testing cosmetics and even in-game items. It has a desaturated red as a rarity color. While no Transcendent rarity items can be obtained by players normally, there was once a bug where certain exotic weapons like the Burst Pulse Rifle would appear as Transcendent if they were obtained through certain devices like vending machines. However, this bug was patched, and it's likely that the Transcendent rarity doesn't even exist anymore in any form, as devs started to use the exotic rarity to test items. Visitor Scientist Faces. When it comes to the members of the 7, we know what the actual faces of 5 out of 7 of them look like. The only two we don't know are the faces for the Visitor and the Scientist, and honestly keep it that way. The mystique of the 7 was ruined when the Foundation had the face of Dwayne Johnson, and since then all the 7 members had their faces shown. Honestly, I don't mind members like the Origin, Imagine, and Order having their faces shown since they're just normal characters. And if they ever go down the path of revealing the face for the Scientist or the Visitor, I hope they go down that path instead of making the Scientist Seth Rogen or something. No matter what, I hope that they keep the Visitor anonymous, as he still remained a silent, mysterious figure, and I would respect his origins as the first member of the 7 to be revealed. Missing First Shadow Cinematics. The First Shadows are a set of 3 skins that came out sequentially as part of the Fortnite crew. The first of these, Burning Wolf, has this awesome stylistic cinematic to accompany its release. However, when other 2 members, Chaos Origins and Sierra, released, they didn't get an animated cinematic. I don't know if they were made but scrapped or if Epic didn't even bother with making them, which is a missed opportunity. Jewel's skin color. This is likely referring to the change made to Beach Jewel's skin color. When Beach Jewels first released, she had a very pale skin color, which was strange considering the original Jewels had a more olive skin color. So Epic later went in and changed the skin, tanning her skin to better match the skin tone of the original Jewels, which I think is appropriate considering that it's a beach skin. Epic offered a refund to everyone with the skin, which I know that is just standard procedure for whenever Epic makes a change to a skin that isn't an additional style, but the idea of someone refunding the skin specifically for the reason that her skin was changed to be tanner is pretty funny and kind of sad if you think about it. Fable is a demon. I'm not really sure what this is referring to, but even then I don't think it's true. Fable isn't a demon, but rather a common subversion of the Little Red Riding Hood story. Instead of being a victim of the big bad wolf, she's a Little Red Riding Hood if she was a wolf hunter. Ice Moon. The Ice Moon is a moon that orbits the island. It initially wasn't from Reality Zero, but was rather brought here by the Ice King. Basically, the Ice Moon was the home of the Ice King, an elemental ruler. The Ice King had a museum where he hosted many powerful artifacts for preservation. However, an individual now known as the Prisoner, who used to be the Ice King's right-hand man, wanted to use these artifacts to alter reality. With the Prisoner gaining support for his dangerous ideas, the Ice King froze his entire castle and everyone inside it. He then brought the entire moon to Reality Zero, somewhere he thought would be isolated. However, a chunk of the Ice Moon broke off and was brought to the island, awakening the Prisoner and Ice King again. So yeah, the snow biome from Chapter 1 Season 7 is actually a part of the Ice Moon. The Ice King would defeat the Prisoner in battle after the events of Season 8 and return to the Ice Moon. Later, after Paradigm beat the Devourer, she flew to the Ice Moon, where she stayed until the rest of the 7 showed up to help her refurbish the Mecha Team Leader in order to fight the IO in the Collision event. This was actually the only time we as players were actually on the Ice Moon, since we were there before the Mecha Team Leader was deployed back to the island. Midas's Glasses. The Midas skin was initially supposed to have glasses. According to Donald Mustard, this was initially to make him seem cold and calculating, but right before the season released, they made a last-minute decision to remove his glasses, as they believed he didn't look cool enough with them on. However, the old Midas design can still be seen on his statue in the yacht, where he is wearing glasses. Loop Nullification Armor. This is a concept in the Fortnite storyline. Basically, by creating a special type of armor that seals you off from the outside world, you would be able to avoid the effects of the loop, such as losing your memory or being unable to speak. The most prevalent example of loop nullification armor is the armor that the Seven wear. However, there are more examples of loop nullification armor, such as the Cyclo skin, as well as the suit of armor Lex Luthor wore in the Batman Foundation comic. Gold Shades. This is most likely referring to the grievances the Fortnite community has with the inconsistent shades of gold used in cosmetics. Basically, there are a lot of gold cosmetics in the game, but almost none of them match each other unless they're from the same set. This means that combos using different gold cosmetics never actually look good, despite seemingly being an obvious combination. It's just a really annoying pet peeve that many have. Brutus's family. In The Authority, a photograph of Brutus and Hazard can be seen. People started to take this as Brutus being married to Hazard and Jules possibly being their daughter. Of course, we now know that Jules isn't their daughter. However, it's still possible that Brutus and Hazard are in a relationship or part of a family. Ghost vs. Shadow was staged. Ghost vs. Shadow was a conflict that dominated seasons 1 and 2 of Chapter 2. Starting off as small-scale conflict between Ultra and Ego, it escalated into a war between Ghost and Shadow. However, unbeknownst to most participating, the conflict was all staged by Midas, who controlled both organizations. He did this in order to distract the IO from his plan to escape. Hypernova Sunsprout Backbling. The Sunsprout Backbling is an uncommon backbling that is sold on its own for 200 V-Bucks in the item shop. However, on April 12, 2019, a strange error had it being sold as the backbling for the Hypernova skin. The Hypernova skin usually is sold with a backbling called the Oscilloscope, but that was completely removed from the skin on this day. Instead, it was replaced by the Sunsprout backbling. This was a unique mistake we've never seen again, and I wonder how it even happened. In the days following the incident, players who bought the Hypernova skin were given the Oscilloscope backbling they should have gotten, and also got to keep the Sunsprout backbling, so they technically got a free item. So yeah, just a tip, if you ever see a mistake in the item shop, you should probably buy the item if you have the money, because you're either going to get a refund or just get that item for free, or some other perk. But this whole incident made me wonder why skins being paired with different backblings isn't possible. Like, we are all aware of locker bundles, which are bundles of various items often chosen by creators sold at a discounted price. These bundles include a skin, and of course if that skin had a backbling, it would come with that backbling. But locker bundles would be much more interesting in my opinion if you were able to mix and match skins and backblings too, selling a skin with a backbling originally from a different skin. I understand why they don't do that, as it causes issues with pricing, but this Sunsprout situation shows that mixing and matching backblings is possible, even if unintentionally, so maybe they can add it in some official capacity soon. Zoe Glitch. In late October of 2018, the Zoe skin suffered a visual bug. When a player who equipped the skin was a certain distance away from you, the skin would just disappear. It would be invisible except for the hair and cap, which of course would be very hard to spot at such a distance. This allowed people with the Zoe skin to have an insane advantage in game. So Epic almost immediately disabled the skin, which is one of the only times in Fortnite history that players would straight up be unable to use a skin that they owned. Of course, this glitch would be fixed quickly and players would be able to use the Zoe skin again. Out of bounds glitch. There have been various glitches and oversights that allow the player to go out of bounds on the map, too many to go over individually. A lot of these tend to use vehicles to play around with hitboxes, making the player intangible to the ground. However, there have been others where the game just bugs out. For example, just this week I experienced a glitch where I was able to go out of bounds on the spawn island. It's not an uncommon glitch at all. Peely Cult. In this loading screen, we see what appears to be a cult of Peelies. They are lined up doing a dance up the volcano, and at the head of the line we see some Peelies carrying a King Peely on a throne. This is a rather strange loading screen and doesn't really have any impact on the game, but the implication is that this King Peely was going to be thrown into a volcano and sacrificed. This adds a sort of dark humor to the image. Game Crash Maps. For some reason, there seems to be a subset of the Fortnite community which are interested in crashing creative servers or crashing the game. Of course, this has resulted in the creation of a lot of maps that crash the game. These aren't too hard to make, just load in a bunch of items that take up a lot of storage or place like 1,000 gas pumps next to each other and blow them up. I don't know why you would do this other than for the novelty though. FNAF Recreations. Five Nights at Freddy's needs no introduction. It's one of the most popular and influential games of the last decade. Of course, this means that there have been a lot of homages to the game within Fortnite Creative. These range from builds of the restaurant the game takes place in, to the actual recreations of the game's mechanics and all. Water Fountain Trick. This refers to the common trick used by many Fortnite Creative builders to build water fountains. Essentially, you can break a fire hydrant so that the water starts shooting off the top. If you hide the hydrant itself within the structure of the water fountain, you can make it seem like the water fountain is spouting water. Nuketown Recreations. Nuketown once again needs no introduction. It's an absolutely iconic PvP map from the Call of Duty series. It has been recreated by fans as a PvP map in many other games, so you already know that it's been recreated in Fortnite Creative. There are a bunch of fan recreations of the map, usually in the gun game format. Template maps. Template islands are maps specifically made for others to build on top of. Usually these are templates for various game modes such as Capture the Flag, Box Fights, Monster Rush, and so on. These maps help creators in creating their own maps by providing a template where all the basic technical aspects of the game mode are already implemented, and the only thing the creator needs to do is modify it to fit their aesthetic and gameplay vision. Rocket League Collab. One of the more long-lasting collaborations in the game is Fortnite x Rocket League. This is still technically a collaboration even though both games are owned by Epic, meaning it's more self-promotion. The collaboration first happened during Chapter 2 Season 4, where players could earn in-game Fortnite rewards by playing in Rocket League. Since then, collaborations between the two games have almost been constantly coming. From new cosmetics and challenges coming to the game, to the Octane car being added as a vehicle, to Fortnite crew members getting the Rocket Premium Pass for free, the collab between the two games shows no signs of stopping soon. Even if you look in-game this very day, you'll still see Rocket League posters in houses around the map. Arabic text. Arabic names are really common in Fortnite, even in Western servers. Now, you could just assume that these are people speaking the language using it as their name, but even if you assume that every single Arabic speaker uses an Arabic name, which is unlikely, there are still too many for that to be the explanation. Well, the answer is that for some reason Sweats really like to use Arabic text in their name. I'm not really sure why. They might think that it makes them stand out. When initially writing this entry, I thought the reason was that there was a bug that made Arabic text crash others' games when your name showed up in the kill feed, giving you a slight advantage. And like the Star Wand bug, this caused a new tradition in Sweats, even if it's not beneficial now. However, I didn't find any documentation of any such bug, and I may have been confusing it with a bunch of bugs on other platforms regarding crashes when encountering Arabic text. Golden Objects in Islands. In Chapter 2 Season 1, golden objects and furniture started appearing in the islands. This was, of course, teasing the next season, specifically the Tier 100 skin Midas and his ability to turn things into gold. This implies that Midas lived in the houses on the island before converting it into the agency. Infinity Blade Collab. By this point, we all know about the Infinity Blade, the infamous mythic added in Chapter 1 Season 7. However, not a lot of people actually know that it is a collaboration of sorts. It is actually a reference to one of Epic's older games, also called Infinity Blade. It was a mobile app released on the iOS store on December 9, 2010, and was actually quite successful. It was the fastest grossing game on the iOS store at the time, making over $1 million in the first 4 days. It was also critically well received. Other games in the franchise were released, but they all eventually ended up taken down due to lack of updates for newer devices. The Infinity Blade in Fortnite was based on the titular Infinity Blade item from the game. Considering that Infinity Blade went down on December 10, 2018, and Fortnite Season 7 started on December 6, 2018, it's likely that Mustard, being heavily evolved in both games, added the Infinity Blade to Fortnite as sort of a final tribute to the series as it went down for good. Tomato Cult. We just talked about the Peely Banana Cult a couple minutes ago. Here we have the Tomato Cult. This is based off the Tomato Temple loading screen. Here we see that there are multiple tomato heads, with the face-painted one being the leader, and they are holding down an employee of Der Burger as one of them is seemingly forcing a tomato mascot head on him. Presumably, this is how new members of the Tomato Cult are created. It's a funny take on fast food rivalries, and plays into the slightly unsettling looks of the tomato head skin. Seasons Channel. Seasons is another Fortnite skits channel, similar to Newscape Pro. However, this channel is much more controversial than Newscape Pro. You can tell they've got a slightly lower production quality than Newscape Pro, but honestly that's not an issue. What is the issue is their pretty graphic titles and thumbnails. There's a surprising amount of realistic blood for a channel I'm presuming it's supposed to be for small children to watch. I mean, it won't traumatize them or anything, but it's still a strange artistic choice. I guess it's part of the clickbait to get the video to stand out. The titles are also quite striking. They're honestly not that different from Newscape Pro, but the subjects are a lot more unhinged than Newscape Pro. Despite all this, the channel was still successful with over 1 million subscribers and their top videos clearing millions of views. Recently though, they've gotten into a rut. Their most recent videos get lower than 100k views. They tried diversifying into Among Us videos, but those videos performed even worse, with view counts similar to what my channel gets. That's when you know you've hit rock bottom. However, they have another channel called Seasons 2, which still uploads frequently, and it has around 900,000 subscribers, which is pretty good. The views on this channel rival that of the original channel. I mean, they just made a 2-hour-long video on Kato Thorne's love life, and as of the time I'm writing this, it got them 88,000 views in 5 days. Not bad. They also have another channel called Seasons 3 with just under 100,000 subscribers, and they upload the same content as they do on the other 2 channels. I'm not really sure what prompted them to abandon the original channel, or even have 3 separate channels in the first place, since they all seem to be doing the same thing. Maslenista Items. Maslenista is an Eastern European festival. It lasts a week and represents the end of winter. The most iconic part of the festivals are the blinis, baked goods that we might call pancakes in the West. It's a festival meant to celebrate joy and unity. Of course, for our purposes, there are unreleased items in the game's code that suggest that there were once intentions for some sort of Maslenista event or acknowledgement in the game. One of these items is the Maslenista backbling, which is a doll resembling a woman with the typical garb worn during the event. Its description reads, "She brought pancakes." The other item in the set is the folk floral weapon wrap. These items were added in the game in early March of 2022, but were never released. Of course, the easiest explanation here comes from the fact that Maslenista is an Eastern European festival, celebrated in countries like Russia and Ukraine, and less than a week before these items were added to the files, Russia started its current push to take all of Ukraine militarily. So it wouldn't be in great taste to release these items right after that started. Secret bunkers. I'm surprised the bunkers were first mentioned this far down. In my original Fortnite Iceberg video, the bunkers were the first entry in the first layer. However, despite this entry surely being over 3 hours of the total iceberg, it is still just layer 3, and I can see the bunkers becoming more obscure since they were from chapter 1. The bunkers were these indestructible doors built into the ground. They first appeared in Wailing Woods during May of 2018, and another one later appeared in the Iceberg biome in Season 7. These could not be broken by any means, and using replay mode to look under them revealed nothing. Many people theorized what could be under these bunkers, and assumed that they surely would be open in future updates. After all, it's a perfect example of a Chekhov's gun. However, this never happened, and Chapter 1 ended with no new information on the bunkers. However, the same indestructible bunkers would appear in the Chapter 2 island, and they would similarly have no information given to us in-game for a long time. The function of the bunkers was revealed in, strangely, the Batman 0 Point comics, where they were revealed to be how the IO accessed the island from their underground base. Supposedly, they could only be opened if a certain frequency was played near them. Finally, in the Chapter 2 end event, the bunker made its last appearance. The scientist uses some fancy 7 laser tech to cut through the bunker door and allow players to escape into the IO base below. Honestly, I'm fine with that being the conclusion of this whole bunker mystery, but honestly it would be cool if the scientist used the frequency device that Batman invented, since canonically Batman could have given it to the Foundation, but that's just a small nitpick. Honey consumable. Honey is a crafting ingredient that isn't in the game. It was only accessible in Creative and Save the World. It can be found by breaking beehives and searching crops in Save the World. Supposedly in an early alpha build of Fortnite, it was supposed to be used as a part of a healing item, but this never came to fruition. Since then, it's still available in the game, but has absolutely zero function, and Epic has stated that they would never give it any function. Surprisingly, with update 19.30 in February of 2022, it was added to Fortnite Creative, although once again with no use. This was a strange addition with seemingly no explanation. However, I do have a theory. Remember shortly ago when I talked about the Maslenista items? Well, the honey was added to Creative around the same time as them, in fact in the update right before they were added. Since we know Maslenista is a festival heavily featuring baked goods, maybe Epic had a plan to use the honey as some sort of consumable or item in their planned Maslenista event, but we know that the event fell through, so the honey was never actually implemented. OG grenade icon. While nowadays the grenade icon has fully rendered art for its inventory, this wasn't always the case. OG players will recognize this icon, which is the image that would be shown in your inventory. It is comically out of place and feels a lot more like a placeholder than something that was actually intended to be in the final game. The icon looked like this until Chapter 1 Season 2, where it was replaced with a more appropriate icon. Jonesy ate Peely. This is not a theory, just a fact. In the Season 9 trailer, we see Jonesy and Peely running away from the volcano eruption. They dive into a bunker just before it closes. At first they are ecstatic. The bunker is decked out with all the luxury items they could ask for, an arcade system, gym, and even dance floor. However, their party is crashed when they open the fridge and find that the bunker, for all its luxuries, had no food whatsoever. As they ponder a solution to this predicament, Jonesy comes to the realization that he's literally living in the bunker with a giant banana. And of course, you can probably guess the actions he takes after that. Yes, Jonesy ends up eating Peely, and doing more too, as he uses the peel as clothing and his intestines, yes, Peely has intestines, as paint to smear on himself and paint his prophetic visions on the wall. However, we do see that Peely still lives on as a smoothie and actually seems to be in a happy mood, so I guess everything worked out fine. Although Peely being happy about being eaten is arguably more disturbing than him being eaten against his will. Changed SFX. This refers to the changes in various sound effects in the game. The most famous, or rather infamous example of a changed sound effect is the Scar. Many people feel like the new firing sound effect is much worse than the original one. What do you think? Directional jump pads. The directional jump pads were placeable traps introduced in the preseason of Fortnite. There were two types, the orange one with arrows facing outwards were the horizontal jump pads, while the blue ones with the inward facing arrows were the vertical jump pads. They could only be placed on a floor tile. The horizontal jump pads would launch you in the opposite direction you entered the pad from, while the vertical jump pads would simply launch you high up in the air. Both negated all fall damage. Interestingly, the jump pads only took up a quarter of the space of a tile, making them unique among all Fortnite traps to this day. It was removed in Update 1.9 and was replaced by the now iconic launch pad. However, they would spiritually return with the addition of the bounce pad, which were able to recreate both the horizontal and vertical launches of its predecessors by being able to be placed on any surface. Cursed Tilted Building. The cursed building refers to a building in Tilted Towers which just seems to have the worst luck imaginable. Before Season 4, it was this red and blue building. However, in Chapter 1 Season 4, it was the only building in Tilted Towers to be destroyed by a fragment of the meteor. It was rebuilt in Season 5, only to have it be singled out and destroyed by the cube. Seriously, it wasn't even in the cube's path of travel. The cube went out of its way to destroy it and it only, and then returned to its usual path. It spent all of Season 6 being rebuilt before becoming a new building in Season 7. However, due to the earthquakes happening at the end of the season, it was destroyed again. It was rebuilt in Season 8. At the end of the season, the volcano eruption destroyed all of Tilted. Well, all except for one building. In a subversion of expectations, the cursed Tilted building was now the only building to be left standing. And that's a nice roundabout way to cap off this entry. While the building technically existed after this and in later iterations of Tilted, nothing notable happened with it. Emotes with changed music. Throughout the history of the game, emotes have gotten their music changed. The most prominent example of such a change is with the intensity emote. This is what it originally sounded like. And this is what it sounds like now. A lot of people prefer the older music, and I honestly do too, but I get why they changed it to the new music, because the new music sounds a lot closer to the music playing in the original Techno Viking video the emote is based off of. Clown Default Dance. We already talked about the removed third default dance music, but there was actually a fourth music associated with the emote. This was goofy circus-like music. This emote was scrapped and was never in the game for players to use at any point. However, in my opinion, it's better than the drum default dance and would fit better as the second music for the default dance. Like, imagine if somebody elims you, and while you're spectating them, they pull out this circus-sounding music. It would be hilariously infuriating. Honestly, that's probably why they removed it. It was too good for a free emote. Hexagon Tiled Storm. In the beginning of the game, the storm looked different, having this hexagonal pattern. That's really all there is to this entry, it's not too deep. Merry Marauder's face. Using replay mode, you are able to clip through masked characters' heads to see if they have an actual model face beneath the mask. When doing this to Merry Marauder, you find this horrifying looking face. I don't know why it looks this bad. Usually other mask skins still have normal faces underneath, even if they aren't meant to be seen. After all, every one of them is based on a skin model. I guess there was a specific issue with this face when modeling a skin, and the devs didn't bother to fix it because they thought nobody would see it. Breakdancing vehicles. In Fortnite, the car physics sometimes get wonky. So when you crash a car, sometimes it results in the car spinning around on its back or something similar, making it look like it's breakdancing. Pretty funny, and this is a rare example of a bug I hope that Epic does not fix. Custom battle buses. The battle bus is hardly a static vehicle. Over the years, it has undergone many changes visually, often changing its look to fit with the theme of a current season, event, or even holiday. However, there were still plans for even further customization, even by the players. In Chapter 1 Season 6, a leaker claimed that Fortnite was working on adding several new cosmetic types to the game. These cosmetic types were the battle bus, calling cards, consumable emotes, hats, map markers, vehicle decorations, and victory poses. It's funny because the only cosmetic type added since then, the weapon wrap, was not part of this leaked list. So yeah, none of these were added, and for good reason. Adding all of these would clutter up the locker too much. Also, people would probably not spend money on cosmetics like victory poses or calling cards, which I assume would not have the opportunity to be used much. However, way later in Chapter 2 Season 2, the menu option for the battle bus was discovered by leakers, renewing speculation about custom battle buses. Some people speculated that this may be allowing players to apply their already owned weapon wraps onto the bus, while others thought it was a brand new cosmetic type. Once again, this functionality was never added. Epic probably realized that they would be changing the battle bus enough anyway, and not many people cared about changing the look of a bus you see for like 15 seconds max. You're not customizing your character, nor are you changing something significant like the background music you listen to. It's a good thing this wasn't added to the game, but honestly adding weapon wraps to vehicles you drive sounds like a cool idea. Expand the system that they use with the motorboats. Fortnite language. Before Fortnite characters just spoke in English, the NPCs spoke in this gibberish that quickly became a meme. Attempting to decipher what they were saying is missing the point. They're not saying anything, just rambling incomprehensibly, enough to convey the emotion that they're feeling. It could have been connected with the idea that loopers weren't able to talk, but I don't think this was the case. It was just a funny and fitting way for Epic to add voices to their NPCs. Ninja Book. Our very own Tyler Blevins of live streaming fame, it turns out, is also an author. He was actually involved in 3 books, Ninja Get Good, My Ultimate Guide to Gaming, and 2 fictional comic books. Let's talk about the guidebook first. Ninja Get Good, My Ultimate Guide to Gaming was a book published in 2019. It isn't specifically about Fortnite, but rather a guide to get better at gaming professionally and streaming. I didn't read the book, nor do I have any plans to. From what I've read about it, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't really justify its own existence. A good chunk of the book were his personal anecdotes about his journey becoming one of the most famous streamers of all time, which honestly sounds like it could be interesting. However, the guide part of the book falls flat. Like, it didn't say anything new, but rather talked about stuff you could easily find online, especially in 2019. I mean, I guess there could be a couple valuable nuggets of information, but not enough to justify a whole guidebook. If you're already serious about becoming a gaming streamer, you probably already know everything he says. The book may have been better if it was just cut down to a collection of his personal stories about his career in streaming and esports, but it's not like he was writing this to be a literary masterpiece. The target audience here is kids who will see that Ninja wrote a guidebook and they'll eat it up. I don't blame them. I did the same thing for Minecraft guidebooks when I was a younger kid, even though those books didn't necessarily have a ton of useful information compared to something like YouTube. If a kid enjoys this book as much as I and many others enjoyed these Minecraft guidebooks, I think the book accomplished its purpose. Ninja also co-wrote 2 other books, graphic novels called Ninja, The Most Dangerous Game, and Ninja, War for the Dominions. The plot of these 2 revolves around Ninja being taken to a battle royale game world, and actually being forced to fight to the death by an evil mastermind. The mastermind conquers different realms to add to his collection, and Earth is next up. Ninja gathers up a group of rebels and revolts against this evil mastermind, hoping to stop his conquest of tyranny. Once again, this isn't a masterpiece and isn't meant to be one. It looks a lot less interesting than the guidebook, but it's made for kids, so it doesn't matter what I think of it or not. Cyclo. Cyclo is an interesting example of a skin that seemed like it would have a major role in the story, but was never actually clarified as to what he did. Immediately, his design is striking. It looked like a human version of the Midas device, almost like the Storm wearing a custom 7 suit. Also, we got a loading screen showing that Midas had some sort of plan for the Cyclo suit. Also, the suit itself could be found in a case in locations of interest. However, despite this seeming importance, it never amounted to anything. Some people had a headcanon that Midas wore this during the Chapter 2 Season 2 event, but it was never actually shown. Maybe he was supposed to show up during the event, but was scrapped due to one reason or another. Camp Cod Relics. In Chapter 2 Season 1, a location named Camp Cod popped up in the corner of the map. This location had a barn which contained a bunch of relics from Chapter 1 inside it. These relics include the Big Shot sign from Retail Row, a fountain from Lazy Lagoon, a Der Burger sign, a cafe sign from Lucky Landing, a broken clock from Tilted Towers, a lion statue from Gotham City, a diner seat and picture from Dusty Divot, a car compactor from Junk Junction, the entry sign and campground sign from Lonely Lodge, and a temple statue from Sunny Steps. It was cool that they added some sort of tribute to Chapter 1, and I really wish they had continued this for future chapters. Midas is alive in Chapter 2 Season 3. There is not much to this one. In the Chapter 2 Season 3 trailer, Midas can be seen being eaten by a shark. It was confirmed that he was not dead, but it shouldn't be a surprise since in Fortnite, no death is really permanent. Bears vs. Gnomes. Bears vs. Gnomes was a side storyline told through map changes and challenges. This occurred in Chapter 2 Season 2. This war was started by the bears as they imprisoned a gnome and started to prep for an invasion of the island by placing honey across the map. To stop the bears, the gnomes start surveillance of the bear headquarters and eventually succeed in their plan to take over the bear headquarters. Now they imprisoned the bear leaders in the same prison a gnome was once imprisoned in. Of course, the majority of the bear army doesn't take kindly to this, so they gather weapons and march to fight. The gnomes muster up a counter-army, complete with artillery, but before any shots are fired, the player steps in to disarm them all. Afterwards, a peace treaty was signed between the two sides. It was a fun side story, filled with the classic Fortnite charm. Gemini, Astro Assassin. Gemini was a skin added to the files in Season 8. She was this futuristic robot bunny. After she was added to the files, players started to notice a striking similarity between her and a character from the game Paladins named Rave Mave. In order to avoid any sort of copyright or legal issues, Epic completely scrapped Gemini, removing her from the files in Season 9. Later in Season 9, Epic Games released the Astro Assassin skin. This was clearly the reworked version of the Gemini skin, as basically everything other than her head was identical. She even had the red and black style, like Gemini. However, for some reason, the red and black style, despite being in the files, was not released alongside the skin, and in fact was just removed with the Season 10 update. Much later in Chapter 3 Season 4, the Gemini assets were added back to the game, but nothing of note has happened since then. The story of these two skins is just surrounded in baffling mystery. Fabio Sparklemane. Fabio Sparklemane is one of the most insane characters in Fortnite, if not the most insane character. And that is not something I say lightly, especially in a game with a bunch of ridiculous characters. The story behind this skin is absolutely hilarious, both in-universe and out-of-universe. Fabio Sparklemane was released in Chapter 2 Season 8 as part of the Battle Pass. In fact, it was featured in the first teaser we got for the season. Now, if you'll indulge me, put yourself in the shoes of the Fortnite community at the time. We had just experienced the Skyfire event, witnessed the alien mothership blow up, raining debris and hundreds of cubes on the island. This was the biggest consequence an event ever had this entire chapter, and the island was surely greatly changed. The community held their breaths, anticipating any news on what would await us next season, and the first piece of information we got from Epic was this. Yeah, certainly not what anybody was expecting. This purposefully exaggerated piece of art caused waves of confusion, anger, and laughter throughout the community. When the season actually released, we saw, to some people's disappointment, the skin itself did not look like the muscular stallions we were teased with, but rather a much more cartoony and goofy look. However, people quickly realized the cartoonish facade held a dark secret. You see, Fabio Sparklemane is a mascot for a cereal company, Unicorn Flakes. However, this isn't an entirely consensual employment situation. In the lobby track that's part of Fabio's set, the lyrics reveal the unsettling truth. The song starts cheerfully, like any song you would hear in a cereal commercial for kids. However, Fabio starts interjecting in the song, saying stuff like, "I cannot stop, help me," implying that he's being forced to eat the cereal. The singers then start singing, "The hoof is a curse that must be obeyed. You can never escape what the rainbow has made. selling breakfast powered from the depths until the monster wakes. Everybody gets some unicorn flakes. This, combined with the previous mentions of unicorn flakes containing magic, implies that the monster forces people to eat unicorn flakes in some sort of ritual to awaken within the bodies of the people eating the cereal. We then hear Fabio yelling, "Partake of my hoof, feel my power," showing the monster is starting to take over. After, Fabio regains control of his body, but is only able to repeat screaming, "My hoof, I cannot stop, help me," until the monster fully takes over his body. So yeah, to recap, Fabio Sparklemane is under a curse where he is forced to constantly eat unicorn flakes in order to awaken a monster that will possess his body, and he is fully aware of this and can do nothing except scream for help that will never come. I am not sure what Epic was smoking when coming up with this concept, but I love it. It is just so insane and out of nowhere that it turned Fabio from what would have been a mediocre meme skin to one of the most iconic Battle Pass skins, at least for me. This truly is peak Fortnite. Mecha Team Leader controlled by different people. This was an old theory that the Mecha Team Leader had a body part controlled by a different character, similar to some other big robots in other franchises. Specifically, the skin referenced in each part of the body would be the one controlling them. So the Tomato Head would be controlling the right leg, Beef Boss would be controlling the left leg, Rex would be controlling the right arm, Drift would be controlling the left arm, and the Cuddle Team Leader, being, well, the team leader, would be controlling the head and torso. While this is an interesting idea, the theory is ultimately false. Deadpool minigame. In Chapter 2 Season 2, during the season-long Deadpool event, there was a room in the quest lobby that contained Deadpool. In this room, you could check out his computer, which contained the challenges he needed to complete for his cosmetics. However, fewer people know that if you minimize the challenges tab, you can click on a Deadpool icon in the desktop. This brings you to a skiing minigame. Your goal in this game is to get as far as possible and collect chimichangas while doing tricks for style. All the while, you have to avoid obstacles and quote-unquote angry peelies who chase after you. Nothing too complicated, but just a fun Easter egg that some epic dev probably took like an afternoon to code up. Default skin names. The default skins actually have names, which people may not know since they're not called by those names in-game. The girls are Ramirez, Banshee, Wildcat, and Headhunter. The boys are Spitfire, Renegade, Hawk, and of course, Jonesy. Typically, these names are used as general names for the skin models, which are used as templates for many other skins. Infinite Dab Extension. The Infinite Dab is a rare emote, which is a dab that continues by continuously switching hands. It's a silly but fun emote. Now, you all must know that when you perform an emote in the lobby, it ends after a certain while, even if the emote normally goes on forever in-game. However, there is one exception to the rule, the Infinite Dab. While originally being limited to the same length as other emotes, Epic started to extend its length as an Easter egg to the infinite part of its name. From update 7.10 to 8.20, the emote was gradually extended to be over an hour long. Another fun joke by Epic. Reflector Wrap. The Reflector Wrap was a wrap added to the files in Chapter 2 Season 4. It was a part of the Silver Surfer set, and was this nice solid chrome coating. Of course, such a clean wrap got so many people excited for its release. However, it was nowhere to be seen when the Silver Surfer set got released in the shop, and to this day, several years later, it has not released. We don't have any idea why this wrap was omitted from release, and the best explanation is that Epic just forgot to add it to the shop the first time, and never bothered to fix their mistake. Ollie equals Guff. Ollie is a glider that was released in Chapter 2 Season 2. It was this ambiguous creature notable for being fluffy and cute. It's also a shapeshifter, being used as a hat for Sky, a glider for her, and also as a mount for bouncing around. Later on in the same season, the Guff skin was released. There are obvious similarities to Ollie to the point where it can consider them to be the same species. Considering that Ollie is clearly a shapeshifter, it's possible that Ollie and Guff are the same quote-unquote person, just in different forms. It makes sense. Ollie was inspired by Jake the dog from Adventure Time, and Jake has taken many radically different forms. Although one question is why the names are so different. If they are the same, surely Epic would name them something similar, not completely two separate names. So I tend to believe that they are two members of the same species, or that they are of a slightly different species. Jewels in the Doomsday loading screen. The Doomsday loading screen shows Midas looking at the Cyclo suit through a pane of glass. However, keen-eyed observers saw that Midas wasn't the only one in the image. If you look closely, you can see that another person can be seen in the reflection, a black-haired woman. While it was unknown who this was at the time, next season it became obvious that this woman was none other than Jules, showing that she was involved in the creation of the Doomsday device alongside Midas. Wake Rider controversy. Wake Rider was a skin added to the files in Chapter 2 Season 1. It was part of the third community choice vote, but it lost. It then sat unreleased for almost 2 years until May 4th, 2021, when it finally released into the shop. Now, this was a bit of a controversial move. Not only did Epic wait over a year to release what is otherwise a mediocre and forgettable skin, they also released it on May the 4th. Now, May 4th is Star Wars Day, and usually Epic will bring out all Star Wars cosmetics in the shop. However, in 2021, the Star Wars cosmetics were nowhere to be seen on this day, and Wake Rider was brought out instead. So despite it not being his fault, a lot of the community started to hate Wake Rider because he represented the Star Wars cosmetics not releasing, and some people thought that Epic didn't bring out the Star Wars stuff in order to bring out Wake Rider instead. Of course, this is a silly controversy, and nowadays most people don't necessarily hate him, but rather just forget about him. Bubble Pad Glitch. In Chapter 2 Season 7, hologram pads were added around the island, and stepping on one would give you different effects based on the pad you stepped on. One of these types of pads was the Bubble Pad, which created a bubble around the player, allowing them to bounce around. However, there was a fun glitch you could do with them. In-game, you would be able to glitch the pads to send you flying sky high. There were two methods you could use. First, you would use one of the bounce pads and an abductor, and fly to a nearby bubble pad without touching the ground. Doing so would send you straight upwards. Another simpler method you could use is eating a hop flopper right before using a bubble pad, which would achieve the same effect. You could also do something similar by activating asteroid gravity in Battle Lab. Slenderman in Wailing Woods. In Chapter 1 Season 3, Epic Games added a super rare Slenderman Easter egg in Wailing Woods. Well, this is what trolls and clickbaiters would have you to believe. Yeah, this was actually a pretty big rumor back in the day, but it was pretty obvious for anybody who thought more than 2 minutes that this was not the case. After a while, Slenderman in Wailing Woods became synonymous with clickbait YouTubers, like how the Kraken event would do so later. Mustard Plays. For the final entry in this layer, we have Mustard Plays. Mustard Plays is a YouTube channel with just over 800,000 subscribers. Most of his videos focus on Fortnite creative. However, what makes this channel special is that it's ran by a guy named Chad Mustard. Or, in other terms, the brother of Donald Mustard. Yeah, it is pretty interesting, and he actually has a video where he talks about growing up with Donald, and he also talks about childhood events that may have affected Donald's philosophy in helping develop Fortnite. However, I must wonder what it feels like to have your career dependent on the game your brother helps create. Those must be fun Thanksgiving dinners. Also, Mustard Plays could literally trash talk some other players saying that his brother is an executive at Epic. Well, not anymore, but he was able to do it for years. With that, Layer 3 of the Fortnite Iceberg is over. As always, I'll leave a link in the description and a pinned comment to the community post containing the icebergs I'm using, and if you have an entry idea that isn't in the icebergs, please leave it in the comments of that post, and I'll see if I can add it to a future layer. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next entry.